welcome everybody to a podcast about movies. Yes, we are a week late, but life happens. People get sick. This guy, but feeling
Jacob works with germ farms known as
I
children. I get it. I had an ex that was a teacher, and she got sick all the time with these damn kids running around and always bringing germs everywhere they go. The little germ factories. So
yeah, it never seems to hit me during the week. It's always on the weekend.
Yeah,
when I'm off.
It's like, come on, why can't I enjoy my weekend and not be sick? I'll be sick while I'm at work. Be miserable.
I would just be sick on a Tuesday.
Yeah,
like it never happens that way. It's always the weekends when I'm free and I can do things. But and I'm just glad we're able to do this. I'm glad that my power came back on. It was the weirdest. I don't know why it came off, why it went off. It was off for like just over an hour though. So
maybe just working on it or something. I don't know. Sometimes I have the same thing. Like they'll be putting a new wire for something, and then so they'll cut it off for an hour and not tell you, and then just come back on. It's just like, oh, okay, well, thanks for that, guys. Appreciate it. Whatever. Thanks.
But that's it's all good because we're celebrating some anniversaries, some 50th anniversary, some 45th anniversaries, kicking off our anniversary series, in a stretch of shows this time rather than because
we don't want to do like 20 shows in a row like we tried to do last year. We live and learn and we adjust to something much easier.
Yes. 4 movies at a time for the next 5 shows.
Much easier.
And we can just dive into them a little bit more rather than just say, yeah, that was good. Or yeah.
All right, moving on. Anyways, we got 19 more movies to cover. Let's keep going.
Well, as you can tell by the title, we'll be covering the 70s today. So 2 movies from 1973, 2 movies from 1978. And 3 of these were first-time watches for me. One was kind of a rewatch, but it was a long time rewatch. Like it's been a while since I've watched it. So it was good to go back and revisit it. And I know one of them was a rewatch for you, right?
Yeah. So Exorcist was a rewatch. Well, yeah, Exorcist. I haven't just sat down and watched start to finish in a long time. Like just start to finish all the way through. So that was kind of a wild card. Serpico I watched like 4 months ago or something when we did Pacino De Niro on Tournament Fights. So I just wanted to fill in a gap there, and I owned it on Blu-ray, so I actually seen it fairly recently. Dawn of the Dead is one of my favorite movies of all time, so no problem there. One of my favorite horror movies. And then Watership Down. Maybe I saw it as a kid. I don't have any memory of it, but maybe it's one of those things where they showed it. That's the kind of movie they would show in school, but I don't remember it specifically, so I'll just say it was a first time watch.
Wouldn't show it in school nowadays, I think.
We'll talk about it, but it might be bloodier than Dawn of the Dead in the same year.
Right.
Maybe.
But figure we'll just go in order. We'll start with the 50th, and to honor William Friedkin, we'll kick off with The Exorcist, which was the first time watch for me.
Okay.
And I think even on the I don't know if it was on the might have been on the case and stuff. I've just got the slip here. The scariest movie ever made.
Yeah, that's the reputation. I don't know if I agree with that, but maybe. Yeah, maybe 50 years ago. Things were a little more shocking 50 years ago when you hadn't seen 50 years worth of exorcism knockoff movies, they do all this basically the same things. So maybe it was more shocking back then.
Some of the dialogue I was like, oh, maybe that's what they were talking about. Maybe that's the shocking part, because if you think about 1973, maybe a lot of this stuff hasn't been put to film yet.
Sure. No, that's what it was.
A lot of it has.
No, a lot of this was shocking at the time because it hadn't been done to death. I mean, this was pretty much the first exorcism movie, and arguably kind of hit every, watch any exorcism movie, they do every, everything that's considered a trope now they do in this movie before it was a trope, you know what I mean? Essentially, all the big things, the taunting, the kind of gross out stuff, the changing of the voices, the shaking around, whatever. Pretty much anything you can think of, they do in this movie. So it kind of set the precedent. So everything after it, just does a version of it. But yeah, at the time, like, yeah, I know I saw this probably 20 years ago. I think I rented it, at Blockbuster when I was going through. But I've told you when I was going through the horror section at Blockbuster, just renting one by one, just like damn near everything I can get my hands on. So I know I watched it then, but I hadn't sat down and watched it in a while. Yeah, not one of my favorite horror movies overall. It's one of those things, Jacob, where we talk about a movie that I kind of respect more than I really love.
I think that's how I feel too after this
Yeah.
rewatch.
Yeah.
I respect it because put myself in the 70s, like I understand why people who maybe have grown up with this movie or watched this in the 70s, 80s, like I understand why they think it's one of the better horror movies.
Yeah.
As somebody who's like not new to horror but isn't like a diehard horror fan,
right?
Like, all right, I get it, that was scary, but I've seen better horror movies. I can appreciate the filmmaking. The filmmaking's good. I think the performances are good. I think what's the name? I should not be drawing a blank on the actress's name who plays Reagan.
Oh, Linda Blair.
Linda Blair. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I thought she gave a really good child performance. I think she was fantastic. So I can appreciate the movie, but there were moments where I was just like kind of bored, if I'm being honest. Like,
the movie
get to like the exorcism part, like the last 30, 40 minutes.
Really, the last 30, 40 minutes. I actually looked at the time code this time as we went through the movie, and Reagan doesn't even like first show signs of possession. Like, she does the famous like peeing on the floor thing during the party at 40 minutes into the movie. She kind of does her first head twist and like fuck with people at like an hour into the movie. Father Karras doesn't kind of start his evaluation until about an hour and 10, hour 15 into the movie. His first like kind of interview, if you will, with Reagan, in the where she, she's messing with him, and then the Max von Sydow doesn't show back up from being in the beginning of the movie. Doesn't show back up to till like I said till about the last 25, 30 minutes, to do his thing. So it's very stretched out. For a lot of times I appreciate that 70s movies do take their time. We'll talk about that, like to actually set up characters. They have a different pace to them. And a lot of times they don't, start really coming together till that 40-minute or an hour mark. Sorcerer, the other William Friedkin movie Jordan and I are going to talk about, that's one of my favorites, does the same thing. It takes a long time to actually get to the real plot of the film, of like the guys driving the trucks in the jungle with like the nitroglycerin in the back, like that sort of thing. It takes a long time to really set that up, and maybe that's just a Friedkin thing, because French Connection is very similar. But at the same time, I almost appreciate the patience and the like, you got to get into the movie. I'm not going to spoon feed you this material. Like, I'm not going to throw 85 things at you and cut back and forth and like the modern ADD style filmmaking of just like, I got to, it's like, no, you got to come to me and appreciate like what I'm going to give you and just get into the mood. So I do appreciate that as far as 70s movies, because a lot of 70s movies, Jacob, they have the same type of thing, but a lot of them have great like finales or third acts, like they have really crazy stuff that happens, or they go into crazy places. They're not afraid to have dour endings, as we could talk about, or they're not afraid to mess with characters or challenge sort of your morals or ideals. So that's what I do like about 70s movies, Jacob, is that aspect to it, that they're not afraid to kind of push boundaries or do things, differently a little bit,
Yeah, and I do appreciate it as well. I think I think maybe they pushed it a few minutes too far. Like,
no, I get it.
You said 40 minutes before, and then an hour. We're finally getting like the head twist, and that's maybe that's just me also, putting these expectations on the movie because I've heard nothing but these.
Oh no, when literally on the DVD on the thing they put the scariest movie of all time. Like you're like, oh, all right, let's go, and then like you're 40 minutes into the movie and you're like,
I haven't been.
All right, so what's the scary part yet? Yeah, she heard some creaks in the attic and and then like the pedestrian stuff starts and you're like, okay, now it's getting interesting. Like, it's getting pretty good. But even then, you're like, Yeah, but I kind of saw that in that other Exorcism movie I saw like, a year ago, or this, that, and the other. So it's like you're going kind of backwards. It's one of those things.
Yeah, but I can't appreciate that. This is the one that started like the Exorcist movies, and
Yeah.
I can definitely see where other exorcism movies are taking from the
Hmm.
Exorcist, and
Hmm.
because it does do it really well. It's just I think I think it's being put on such a pedestal. It's one of those things where it's people are praising it so much that it's becoming. I hate using the term overrated,
Yeah.
um, but we got to think of another.
I think it's more like overexposure, maybe, or
Yeah, maybe
something
that's
like
a good way
that.
to put it.
Or it's like it's become this thing where maybe all the old school critics and things like prop it up as like, the pinnacle of sort of, old school horror or old school filmmaking and things. And yeah, like you said, we've seen so much things that are more, flashy, or, fast paced, or have crazier things that the possessed person does to the surroundings, or, whatever, compared to throwing up pea soup and spinning their head around, in
Yeah,
this movie. You know what I mean? Like it seems tame in comparison going back 50 years. But yeah, again, you have to put it in context. This is literally 50 years ago. And what was funny is I'm watching my Blu-ray, right, Jay? Because I don't have the 4K. I know there's a new 4K and stuff, but I have a Blu-ray set that came out about 10 years ago. It had all of them in there. And I put in the theatrical Blu-ray, and William Friedkin comes on the screen for like an introduction, and he goes, blah, 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 and now 25 years later, and it's like an introduction from the 25th anniversary, like in like 1998. So I'm assuming for the original DVD like release of The Exorcist,
yeah,
which I probably owned at some point. And I was like, oh boy, like talking about a time warp. And then I'm like, oh geez, now I'm watching it, and we're talking about the 50th anniversary on this show. I'm like, geez, time flies, right? Like that's kind of crazy. But yeah, it's I still did enjoy my rewatch. As far as, like I said, I appreciated the fact that they do take time with Ellen Burstyn and Linda
yeah,
Blair to kind of like show it's like this sort of single mother relationship, because the father passed away, and like, or not passed away, I'm sorry, he's gone, like not passed away, because she's trying to call him later and getting all pissed off, he's like off in Rome or some shit, like he ran off somewhere. But yeah, like she's pretty mature for her age, talking about like, hey, you gonna take this guy out with us, like when we go to the movies, like da da da, like she's pretty smart for her age. They really developed that dynamic to where you actually care when Ellen Burstyn is like legitimately freaking out, and nothing's working. She's going
yeah,
to medical people, and
yeah,
you feel her frustration of just like, I've been to every damn doctor and psychologist, and I don't want her like locked up and drugged up in a mental ward, like, et cetera. And you feel that. So I was appreciating at least that aspect of the story.
hmm
Her frustration as kind of the movie builds and builds, in which he's just begging and pleading. Father Karras, the Jason Miller character, who I think gives one of the best performances of the movie. I love Jason Miller in this
yeah.
movie.
He's really good.
I think he's awesome.
Yeah,
Like he's fantastic. Well, the stuff with that he's dealing with his deceased mother that just passed away, and all the weird things kind of is going on with him, and his frustrations with the faith and with the Catholic Church, because he wants out, and like he's kind of half in, half out. But yeah, all that stuff's really, really good.
yeah.
So
I thought for a
good.
moment like they might do like not focus on one storyline too much, like, and then one
Mhm.
like focus on the main storyline too much. But like I think they gave enough time to both kind of storylines where they kind of
Yeah,
connect, because obviously like she's saying that like she's her mother, his
Mhm.
mother, during like the exorcism part, and so
Yeah,
like they kind of took their time with all these characters, like you were saying, and they blended them together, I
yeah.
think, really well.
Well, that's again, that's a '70s thing, where '70s movies will sometimes set up these puzzle pieces that you don't know how they're going to come together and connect, but they do. I watched Marathon Man recently. It kind of does the same thing. It sets up this whole thing with Dustin Hoffman separately from like this Roy Scheider thing from this other guy, and like you're like, okay, how do these connect? Like, what's going on? And then when they finally do come together, like the movie like kicks in high gear, and you go, oh, okay, so that's connecting here, 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 and yeah. Now, once you know about the mother thing, and Reagan is speaking like the mother and talking about Karras's mom and things like that. She's down here too. Blah blah blah. Like it's all kind of a setup of everything that comes together. So I did, yeah, appreciate that they did a good job weaving all the little storylines when they finally kind of come to a head there.
Yeah, and I thought the makeup was really good too.
Mm-hmm.
for the 70s, like obviously they're doing it better nowadays. I think because not only is it makeup, but you can do like CGI and stuff, and you can use that really well. But yeah, I think like the makeup, like there were still some scary moments, like there were. I'm not calling this the scariest movie of all time. If this was 1973, I might be saying that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, not now. There was still some dialogue that I was like, oh, that's dark
For 73. Yeah.
Even now, I don't know that I would say that. I was kind of like, oh, a 12-year-old is saying that.
Yeah, right.
Like, oh my goodness. A specific, like, I think it was like the first time we actually see her like fully possessed, and like mom comes in and she's just saying some things to her that a kid should not be saying.
Oh, she's dropping F-bombs. She's dropping, your mother does things in hell, certain things, and to Karis later, and
the phrase "lick me" should never be said by
lick me, right? Yeah, and a lot of people, talk about the infamous, crucifix scene. We'll just leave it at that, let's say that was very controversial, even to this day. But yeah, I think what it is, Jacob, with this movie is there's also a lot of stuff about sort of the making of this movie and the stuff that came afterwards with people say there's like a curse on the cast and crew of the people who made this movie, because there's a lot of weird circumstances with people who died around the movie, kind of like Poltergeist that we talked about. Like there are people who have some people passed away, or people who did committed crazy crimes afterwards, or developed different illnesses and things, and so I think it's just become this mythos of things that happen. William Friedkin was he took things to the extreme on set, like the actual set where it was cold. It was legitimately cold. It was like -10 on the set. And then with the lights, it warmed up a little bit, but poor Linda Blair's just there in like a nightgown, laying on the bed, being damn near tortured, with these scenes and all kinds of stuff. And, he would like fire off blanks on a gun just to get startled reactions out of people, and he would go a little Kubrick with how many times he would make people redo sequences and things like that. So there's a lot about the making of this movie that you can see online, as far as maybe that's kind of helped build sort of the aura of The Exorcist, if you will, over the years, and kind of everything that went into it.
Yeah. So still liked it. I think I like you said, I think I respect it more than I love it, but I still think it's still a really good movie.
Yeah, it's not one of those ones I'm going to go back and watch a lot, or I do watch a lot. Unlike a movie we'll talk about in a minute, like another horror movie that I do watch a lot, that I can just casually throw on and have a good time with. But yeah, I think this is one that every couple of years I'll check it out. I mean, who knows? Maybe even I know they're putting it back in theaters even a couple of months from now for the 50th anniversary, I believe. Maybe I'll go to the theater and just watch it. Like, who knows? And maybe it'll play even better, on the big screen. Like I'd be down for that.
I'd be curious to see how
I wish it did. If they'd already done it, I could have gone to the theater and watched it. That would have been fun.
Right.
For my rewatch, like I did with Jaws, I was like, oh, it just happens to be coming out the same week we're going to do a podcast on it. I'll just go watch it in the theater this week instead of on my 4K. But yeah, it's still a good watch. I do recommend that people see it at least once. Sit down and watch it all the way through. And it's a very important movie, like say, for what it kind of did for the genre, and kind of really much like what George A. Romero did, kind of inventing a subgenre with the movie before Dawn of the Dead, kind of really starting this whole subgenre of horror, for sure. It's possession movies.
Yeah, so I'm glad I watched it. Kind of used this as an excuse because I had never seen it.
Yeah, why not?
The perfect excuse.
Fill in those blind spots, in case I ever ask about it and they said or something. Now you know what's up. Which I tend to do with the things I watched recently. So look for that if I ever write one.
That's almost how I write questions as well.
Yeah, right.
That, and I'll look.
Look at my my note app and all these old movies that what have I been watching lately? Yeah, okay. Question about that. Question about that. We'll see. Nothing obscure. Like it's all mainstream stuff, but still, yeah. I may do like that. So, all right.
The second movie. This was your choice for the 50th. Serpico, which I had just finished about 45 minutes ago.
There you
go. Streaming on Amazon Prime for anyone who has not seen this.
Yes.
You don't own the Blu-ray because I didn't, but I'm glad it's streaming somewhere.
I made sure it was streaming somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's streaming in a couple of places. It's not hard to find. Yeah.
Yeah, so Serpico also celebrating the 50th, released in 1973. This one starring Al Pacino before he went crazy. No,
Well, it's still calm Al Pacino. He has his moments of outbursts, but he's still kind of calm, collected. You know, 70s Al Pacino is not quite there yet. You know, as he would with the kind of started with Scarface going off the end, and then when you get to a Son of a Woman and Heat, you know, he's kind of gone all the way off, and especially Devil's Advocate in the 90s. Not that it's not enjoyable to watch. I still like watching it.
Right.
But he's go back to the 70s if you want to see calm Al Pacino with like The Godfather, Godfather 2, Serpico, Dog Day Afternoon. Yeah, go back to that.
I mean, what a good 3-year run he had here from 72 to 72 between this going sandwiched between the two Godfathers.
Yeah, and the Dog Day Afternoon right after Godfather 2. I mean, he had a heck of a run in the 70s. A lot of these guys did.
That's another blind spot that I have to.
That's a good one. Like it's a really solid one. I'm not going to say it's like one of my overall favorites or one of the greatest ever, but it's really worth watching. And again, with John Cazale, who's also in that one. He's Fredo in the Godfather movies, and he was. He only did 5 movies, all of which were nominated for Best Picture. And yeah, Dog Day Afternoon, again, good performances, really good story, and kind of an important movie. So I would definitely recommend that one as well if you get around to it. Same director, by the way, Sidney Lumet, who did this movie, who did Serpico, did Dog Day Afternoon, who has also had a heck of a run, done a lot of good movies.
Yeah, so Serpico, starring Al Pacino as the Frank Serpico. Becomes a cop, and he doesn't like the corruption that's in the police force, and so it kind of following him trying to take that down. What were your initial thoughts? Because I know this was the first time watch for you as well.
Yeah, no, and I've been wanting to get around this for a while, and oddly enough, I think I told you this. I ended up kind of unintentionally watching 2 police corruption movies in the same week that were first time watches, because I watched the same week I watched LA Confidential for the first time.
Oh, okay.
And that's funny. It's a 90s movie, but it's set in the 40s, but it's also about police corruption, Guy Pearce trying to take down corruption sort of within this, system. So yeah, I've been wanting to get around to this because I've been on a 70s kick lately, especially I love 70s New York movies, and this is another 70s New York movie. It's just a fun time capsule to go back to. Not that I'd ever want to live in 70s New York because it seems pretty, rough and dangerous. But like if I could go back in time and walk around 70s New York for a day, I might want to do that, just to kind of experience it. But the closest I can get is movies like this. Another William Friedkin movie, French Connection, is like very similar. It's 70s New York, very grimy. But yeah, I just been wanting to see it because it's Pacino not playing like a bad guy. He plays a bad guy a lot. In this one, he is a good dude, a genuine good dude who wants to do the right thing. And it's a really pure story of a guy who's fighting a system that's so built in and so almost hopeless, feeling like he can do anything about it because he takes it to his superiors. He takes it to the captain. He takes it to the commissioner. He takes it to the mayor's assistant. He takes it to the mayor. He's taking it to, the New York Times. He's taking it to, all these organizations, the DA, literally like the state district attorney. And like, he feels like he's completely hopeless. It ends up like destroying, his relationship because he's just so obsessed with like doing something about this. Again, much like Ellen Burstyn and Exorcist, you can kind of feel his frustration building throughout the movie, just more and more and more and more. It's a frustration movie, and it's just really interesting to see. And when you know that it's a true story of this real guy who was fighting real corruption in the NYPD. They did this movie a year after he moved out of the country to Switzerland, which is kind of nuts, like how they turned around this movie so fast to do the story. Because you think like, oh, he must have did it like 5 years previous or something like that. No,
I was thinking, no, it was released the year after he moved to Switzerland. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, they turned that one around, right? Put that up quickly, and he wrote a book like immediately, and they were kind of going off the book as well. But yeah, it's just a really, really, again, interesting movie. There's a cool thing where if you go look up sort of how he got his look in this movie, because if you look up, it's obviously right there on the poster. He's got this very kind of scrappy beard and this long sort of hippie hair and things, and he goes undercover, a lot in these sort of vice squads and things. He's doing this. He kind of revolutionized undercover work as well, because he he changed the way they dress for undercover work. Like there's a famous thing where they used to give them clothes to wear for undercover work, and all the guys on the street knew it's like, yeah, that guy's a cop, you're a cop, you're a cop, you're a cop, like no problem, and he started wearing like his own clothes and kind of changing things. But they actually filmed this movie in reverse, so he started after he'd already grown out everything, doing research for the role, and then they shot it in reverse all the way to where he's kind of fresh faced out of the academy, clean shaven and short hair, and things like that. So they shot it in reverse order and just slowly trimmed down the beard and shaved this and cut that and all that. So again, it's a cool way of kind of making the movie, so it's not all fake beards and whatnot, but it just shows the commitment to the movie. But yeah, I really like this movie. I really, really enjoyed it. It was a big surprise, and again, just the performance definitely carries the movie. But again, it's just a simple story about a dude who's fighting the system, and we've seen that a lot over 50 years, and I think this is one of the better examples. But yeah, what'd you think?
I thought it was good. I think Al Pacino gives a really good performance here. I think I might actually like his performance here more than I do Godfather 2, actually.
Oh, really?
Okay. Yeah, I thought he was really good.
Yeah.
I think right for me, and this could maybe on a rewatch be different, but I think right now I like the performance more than I like the movie.
Okay.
Because I think there's parts about the movie that like I feel like the time jumps happen just kind of out of nowhere. Like they talk about doing the fingerprints and you can be part of the BCI or whatever, and then all of a sudden, well, he's part of the BCI. Like, oh, okay, well, yeah. I've been here for 2 years. Oh, what happened in the last 2 years? Like we don't know. We didn't see anything.
Literally, it's just to signify nothing interesting. It's a desk job, because they don't want him. It's your punishment. You get to do this boring ass job for trying to stand up to the man. You know what I mean? Like that's your punishment. And I think that's kind of interesting. Like when you think about it, though, like no, that think about any job you had that just flew by because there was nothing happening, in your life, and 2 years later they haven't gone anywhere. That's what it is in the movie. It's like you snap like that and you've lost.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that's a good point. It felt like we covered like, I don't know what, 10, 12 years in this movie or something like that. It feels like
an hour.
In a couple hours. Well, yeah, because I think I really like the last half of this movie more than I do the first half, kind of like when they're really focusing on the corruption, because I feel like that's where the bulk of it's happening. It's like him working his way up into the police force or whatever and now he's here. He's the honest cop, and when those moments of frustration happens and he just blows up, like I think that feels earned. Like we get it, we know why, and even the relationship he's in with Lori, like I understand. Well, I also understand why she's leaving. It's kind of a guy who's more invested in his job than, and rightfully so. Like police corruption, like it's not a good.
I was gonna say we see a lot, and you might like this movie better. Another Al Pacino movie I've talked about. I don't know if you got around to Donnie Brasco yet. It's very similar because your boy Johnny Depp, it's Al Pacino, and you might like that because it's a very similar thing where he's so undercover and so invested in the job, and Al Pacino's actually like. He's not a cop in that one. He's like actually one of the dudes. And Johnny Depp is the cop. But yeah, he gets so invested that his relationship kind of disintegrates in that movie, and his relationship with his kids and all that stuff. So like this might be a good pairing with that, just in your own time. You watch Donnie Brasco, I think that would be a good one. Fill in your Johnny Depp gaps at the same time and get kind of a similar movie. Maybe that's more to your like that one takes place like doesn't do as many time jumps. It's like kind of a certain period, of what he's doing. You might like that a little bit more, Jacob, if you go check it out.
Yeah. But it was also one of those things where I don't know. I don't like seeing something that happens at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the movie.
Okay.
But this time it's like we don't know if he survived.
Yeah.
So like I kind of appreciate this one a little bit more because it's like, all right, well, and they kind of said, well, who shot him? Like we don't know.
Yeah.
Was it cops? Was it a criminal who he was trying to take down? Like, so it works a little bit better in this one because it's not like we talked about with Mission Impossible 3. Like we know he's gonna survive.
Yeah. Right.
But so it does work a little better in this one. But it's like
At least there's not a wacky narration where it's like, I bet you're wondering how I got into this situation. Like I've seen movies like that where that's really corny. Like I hate that shit. Like if you're gonna do that, if you're gonna do the flashback, like at least don't do the corny. Like I bet you're wondering how we got here. It's like, I kind of figured you would tell me. Like we wouldn't just start here. Yeah, no,
I'm not. Never mind. I'm just not gonna.
Actually, you know what? I think I'm gonna watch another movie. See you later.
But yeah, I think Al Pacino was fantastic in this movie. I really liked the story once it like centered in on the police corruption. I liked everything leading up to it too. But I feel like, and I don't know if it's just me. I don't know how other people feel, but I feel like a big missed opportunity was all the family stuff. Like we I don't know if we get a lot of that because like he seems like a family guy. Like he goes to his what was it? His dad's shoe shop. He wants to see his dad. Like I don't know. We don't really see his dad until the end of the movie, do we?
Not really. No.
We don't really.
It's more of told instead of shown. Like for most of the movie. Yeah. So I mean that's the thing where. And I think that's something that maybe you'd like Donnie Brasco more because they show way more of the family stuff throughout, like sprinkled throughout the movie, like the actual scenes of them, them arguing and interacting with the kids and stuff. So maybe you like that more. And even LA Confidential to a degree does that a little bit too. So yeah, maybe like it's one of those things. But you can tell it's like that's what Sidney Lumet and Al Pacino are more invested in. It's like the cop stuff, and that's okay. Yeah, and it is what it is. And
that is what the main story of the movie is. So right. I get it, but it's like,
I totally
why include it if you're not gonna like build on it? Also, who says no to a woman naked in the bathtub? And that's the last we see of her. Yeah. Oh, okay, so she really did go off to Texas and marry Roy, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we just don't. Yeah, then it makes another time jump, and we just don't see her anymore.
Well, it's, again, 70s, man. You know, that's what makes me. That's why I kind of like them. Sometimes it's like, oh, you want a conclusion to that or an ending to that? Nah, we're just gonna keep going with this story. You want these guys to have a happy ending? Nah, we're not gonna do that. You want everybody to. All the priests to live in The Exorcist? Nah, we're not going to do that. I kind of appreciate some of the cynicism and nihilism of these movies. That's just why I kind of dig them because it's like screw what you want. We're just going to what we're going to give you. You can either like it or you're not. But yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah, we find out. Yeah, he gets shot when we do get to it. Yeah, he gets shot by the bad guys, but it's because his partners kind of let him. Get aren't backing him up properly, it's almost like your punishment or whatever, or we're just not gonna watch your back. Like we're not gonna shoot you personally, but we're also gonna kind of not interfere, and see what happens. So yeah, and that's what sets him off to just move out of the country and peace out. Like no, I think I'm out of here. So you guys, I can't trust any of you guys.
Yeah. So finally gets his gold badge and he's like.
Yeah, no, I'm out. Peace.
Just
see you later. Nah, don't leave. No, I'll just write a book and move away and get paid to help write the script with Norman Wexler, who's a crazy person. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. But yeah, I still like it. Again, I like grimy '70s New York movies, so like I dig it. It's something I could put on. But yeah, at least you liked it.
I'd recommend it too. I think it's a good watch, especially if you like calm Al Pacino.
Call him Al Pacino, yeah, who just yells occasionally, not the whole movie.
So yeah, those were our choices for the 50th anniversary. So we'll move on now to the 45th anniversary and a movie that you really love, and it's another horror one that I need to cross off. So we're talking about the 1978 Dawn of the Dead.
And my 4K box. I love this thing. Yeah, baby.
If you don't have a physical copy of it, you could watch it for free on YouTube.
Look at those 4 cuts of the movie on 4K. There's a theatrical cut. There's an extended cut. There's an Argento cut. There's special features. There's all kinds of stuff. Oh god, there's like 4 versions of this movie. It's nuts. But yeah, it's on YouTube at least because this movie is notorious. There's a guy in Germany who like owns the streaming rights to this movie or something, and like refuses to do anything with it. So it's frustrated because people want to watch this movie because it's a George Romero like zombie movie. We want to see it. So, But because of that, he doesn't care about copyrights and stuff. So people just upload this movie to YouTube. Whoever people who have the original Blu-ray before this one, because there was a Blu-ray. So yeah, at least you can see it in high def on Blu-ray. It's not like a crummy VHS copy. You can see it very clearly. It's a good copy. But I just have to tell people, like, I mean, I tell you to go rent it legitimately, but you literally can't. It's just impossible. So unless you have a physical copy like that, you got to watch it on YouTube. But yeah, this is one of my favorites, man. I love this movie so much.
And make sure you watch the version that was uploaded by a YouTube channel with less than 1,000 subscribers. Otherwise, you're going to get ads every 4 minutes.
Oh, no, screw that.
So,
no, thank you.
Yeah, because I started watching, and like 3 minutes in, it was already cut into an ad, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing this.
We're not doing
not doing this. There was another channel that uploaded it. They had like 900 subscribers. So like,
oh yeah, no,
all right, that one's not going to cut at all. So
no, they're just looking for the views. Sounds good. Excellent.
Yeah, it's got quite a few views too. So.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sure it's a good money maker for them. Yeah, you upload this thing and you got, I'm sure, thousands and thousands of views on that thing. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But yeah, so this is obviously one of your favorites. So
yes, yeah.
And so what makes this one of your?
Yeah, I think I just like the simplicity of this movie, man. It's not. It's set in a world that obviously has been and this for anybody who knows, all those of the Dead movies technically take place in the same world, and obviously they were made long apart from each other. But especially the trilogy of Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead are all taking place in the same world, kind of in the same continuity. So it's continuing the events of Night of the Living Dead, but it's just following a different group of people in a different location. This thing is ravaging. But again, it's not like them doing some big mission or doing some big thing or whatever. It's just a core group of people just doing human things to survive in this zombie world. And I just like that you're following a very, very condensed group of people. It's literally 4 people you're pretty much following this thing. You got, 2 cops. You got Ken Faree, and I gotta look up the guy's name. I apologize, but it's Raj. Roger. He's but yeah, they're kind of these 2 sort of buddy cops here. And then you got a couple, who's kind of has a rocky relationship. You got Flyboy and what's his name? Steven, but everybody calls him Flyboy in the movie, and Francine. But yeah, it's just they get to this mall. I mean, a lot of people know the story, even if you haven't seen the movie or if you've seen the remake. They get to a mall. Okay, we got to settle here for a minute and see what happens. And most of the movie is just them doing things that people would do and kind of, just kind of living their life and adjusting to life now, just kind of living in the circumstance. And yes, you get a lot of, you get bloody stuff with them kind of fighting off, these hordes of, zombies here and there. But you also get characters who are pretty smart for the most part, who make smart decisions, who again are just trying to survive and adapt and then overcome any obstacles that may fall in their way. And it's just this kind of, it's still sort of a one location movie for the most part in this mall. We don't go see a lot other than that at the beginning when they're kind of at that apartment complex and they fly to the little airfield and then they get to the actual mall. But man, it's just the simplicity of it, man. It's just we're just watching them do their thing, and you get a funky soundtrack, which I just love. When they're running around, I love the score of this movie and sort of the music, and I love the performances, and again how they kind of just ponder on the world and philosophize about what's going on. Ken Faree, who would make a cameo in the new one, saying the same line he says in this one about the when there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth. That's just a great line. And yeah, we get some bonker stuff at the end with the Motorcycle Gang and Tom Savini and all that, and we kind of move on. But it's just like every one of these movies, we just lock in on a couple of characters just to see what they got going on and what their situation is. And I know it doesn't sound like the most exciting thing in the world. It's like some people prefer, the 2004 one, and I love the 2004 one as well. I dig it too. Like it's almost right up there with this one. But again, I just enjoy the simplicity of this movie and just how it's just this human story, and you get really invested in these characters because again, that's what 70s does. You get to know all these guys and their frustrations and their struggles and their triumphs when they have these little mini triumphs and enjoying the little things, as they would in Zombieland, enjoying the little things of eating the things in the stores and playing the video games and just trying to kill time. And and you just get to know these people. So I just like it, man. I dig it. It's just a fun movie. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it. It's a simple movie, which I appreciated, especially once we got to that point, because at the beginning it was like it just seemed very chaotic in that TV station, and
that's
then
what it's supposed to be. It's just throwing you into chaos, but then kind of slows down later. You know, like where you don't really know what's going on. You're kind of thrown into this chaos, but it gets quieter later, and you kind of honed in on things. But
yeah, it's like I'm like, who are we focusing on? Is it going to be the two people arguing on TV? Like, because I have seen
Eye Patch Man is what I call him on TV.
Because I have seen Night of the Living Dead, so I knew like this was the follow up. So I knew like they're talking about zombies and the undead. I was like, man, it just seems very chaotic. Like, what are they going to do? And then we get they're flying, the cops are, and then we get to the mall and. Yeah, I dig it. Just them kind of going through life, trying to survive. And like there's just some really fun moments, like especially when the other cop kind of starts getting sick, and so they're like pushing him around in this cart or something.
Oh my god, it's one of my favorite scenes.
I want to do that
when they're cleaning, when they're kind of. They end up, and it always frustrates me every time I watch it. Not like a frustration of the movie, but I kind of hang my head for the character when Roger starts getting cocky with like the truck sequence, and he's just like, woohoo, yeah, and then he gets bit, and you're just like, oh, dude, why couldn't you be so stupid? Like, why couldn't you just like listen and be smart or whatever? But them doing these little mini missions, it kind of feels like a video game. It's like, okay. Here's
this would make a great video game.
No, that's what I mean, and like that's what I also kind of like about it. It's like we get to the mall, okay, right? So what do we do now? Well, first we just need to sleep, so let's just blockade the door and like get some rest, and then once we're good, all right, let's go explore a little bit, see what the situation is, scope it out. Okay, now that we've scoped it out, let's block off this area so they don't get here. Okay, now let's oh shit, there's a gun store. Let's go arm up in the gun store in the mall in the 70s. Yes, America, right? There's a gun store in the mall, so we'll arm up. Okay, now let's isolate the things here. Okay, now we got to get the trucks so that no more zombies get in here or break down the door. So let's move the trucks. Okay, now that we've done that and we have a certain amount inside the mall, let's go around and take them out and round them up. Like you said, the sequence where they're rolling around the wheelchair is a lot of fun. So he's still shooting people, but they're just rolling them around in the wheelchair. Yeah. It's great. Or in the little car that's the contest car that's in the middle of the mall that you always see. They're driving around. And then it's like, well, now that we've done that, what do we do now? Well, kill time, because what else is there to do? I don't know. Listen to the radio, go ice skating, eat random stuff, play dress up at the department store. What do you do? I don't know. Just kill time and live. They move all the furniture up into that upper room. Make it like a house. You got lamps and furniture and tables and chairs and all this kind of stuff. And then it finally kind of comes to an end when Roger finally passes away. After he gets bit. And goes, and they kind of think that they're going to move on, but there's a debate of like whether or not we should move on. Like, hey, we got everything we need right here. Why would we? And then you get the motorcycle gang. You get the, again, going back to, zombies are the threat, but in these movies, there are people that are threat too, and they can be just as dangerous as the undead. And you get these kind of, marauders that are, kind of break in and scare them away. But even that sequence is crazy and funny because they're goofing around and being silly, but some of them are stupid. The guy with the blood test or the blood pressure machine getting his arm ripped off like a dummy, and doing all this stuff. But, again, it just feels like a video game or something, but in the most fun way. So I just dig just watching these people just do their thing in this mall and just from step to step and mission to mission. It's just really entertaining. Like I think it's a lot of fun.
It's a little over 2 hours, but it doesn't feel like a 2-hour movie.
And there's longer cuts that are the European cut is 2.5. It adds in some of the deleted scenes that are not necessary. I would definitely just recommend the theatrical cut or whatever the YouTube cut is.
That's probably what's on YouTube.
Yeah. There is a long cut and there's an Argento cut that alters some of the music. Dario Argento famously did an edit of it. But yeah, like I think the theatrical one's just fine. You don't need all the extra stuff. But yeah, I mean, but I want to know your thoughts. I mean, it was your first time watch. I watch this movie all the time. But
yeah, no, I dug it, especially that middle part where they're at the mall and they're just doing life. I think that's just a lot of fun. Like, I don't think there's a lot that I would call like super exciting, like Like the end is like there's some fun to be had. But it's just like you said, it's a simple story of these four characters doing life, trying to survive at the mall, and you spend time with them, you get to know them. The two from the news station, their TV station. When the woman's expecting the baby, and it's like, how are they gonna deal with that?
Yeah.
I really enjoy the buddy cop dynamic between Ken Forey and the other guy who's
it's a Scott Ranger, but it's Peter and Roger. Yeah.
Peter and Roger. Yeah, I really dig their dynamic, and then when the four of them are together, I think it's really good as well. So yeah, good performances. I think there's some fun scenes. Like I said, that when they're wheeling him around and he's shooting people, like
so much fun.
I want to do that. Also, that's like a video game. I would play that.
The music, it's almost like video game music, like old time. It's like down, 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 down. Like it's just this kind of 70s synthy kind of music. It's a lot of fun. I like the incorporation of the mall music, like the mundane mall music throughout the movie. Like when they first turn on everything in the control room, and so the escalators turn on and the fountains turn on and all this stuff. And there's some, some of the zombies are like hanging on near the escalators, and it starts taking them up, and they're just, whoa, again, the zombies in this movie, they have like the blue and green kind of goofy makeup, it looks kind of stuff. But it's unique. I like that it's unique from every other zombie movie. They're not just like rotted people or, brown, whatever. It's like goofy, but I kind of like it when they, it's got that 70s blood when they get shot, like the really bright, like neon red blood, that goes everywhere. Yeah. That's fun. It's just good practical stuff throughout the movie. And you get the montages where they're just even Roger, they're just going up and down eating stuff and playing in the arcade and figure skating and all the things. And it's like, that's what I would do if I was at a mall. What else are you gonna do? Just be silly. They're stealing all the money from the bank, but still walking the little turnstile, like walking through the line, to go up to the bank. Like just little moments like that, I think just make this movie and our nice little commentaries on everything and how human beings act and how silly we can be sometimes and how we act in these situations. I think it's just it's a really smart movie. Again, with characters you can really get invested in. So I dig it.
Yeah, and then the finale, kind of when the biker gang gets involved, it doesn't. Like I thought, all right, well, we're introducing this. How long is this going to be? And so I didn't want to keep checking. All right, we're this far in the movie. I didn't do that. I just watched it.
Yeah.
And thankfully there were no ads, so it didn't go back and forth and show the time every single time.
Yeah.
But no, they introduced them, and then it's like, all right, well now we're fighting zombies in this biker gang, and then the movie's over.
Well, yeah,
it wraps up quickly.
And unfortunately, I think my most heartbreaking thing is when Flyboy actually gets bit in the elevator, because it sucks because he's fighting to get out, and they bite up his leg, and then you see him, zombie, and then he's the one who kind of has the recollection to break through the wall and go up in there, and you have the bit where Peter's contemplating just killing himself right there, because Roger's gone, everybody's gone, and so he thinks about it, but he changes his mind at the last second, hops back up, and they fly off, to kind of an unknown. We don't really know where they go. Where do they go? Where do they make it to? I don't know. Their story just kind of ends because, spoiler, Day of the Dead does not focus on them at all. They don't come back for that one. So it's a whole different group.
I like when movies do that. You can come up with your own conclusion.
Yeah, where do they go? I don't know, but they're alive somewhere. They live to fight another day. And Day of the Dead's kind of similar if you ever want to check that out. I like that movie too. It's a very nihilistic movie, but I still like it. But yeah, I think it's just a good time and a nice time capsule. And again, if you want a zombie movie that kind of feels like a video game and it's bare bones, it's kind of what it is. Well, what would I do as the player one running through this mall? That's kind of what they do. So
yeah, I'll definitely be rewatching this at some point.
Yeah,
because it was a lot of fun, but like you said, it had its emotional moments as well. So really, really good. Glad I finally watched it. But
nice.
That's kind of what at least me. It's kind of what I use this for, is to kind of bumped these movies off my watch list that I need to get to.
Well, and my only real agenda is to get these movies out of the first round of tournament fights gradually, little by little. One person by one, I push these people to watch these movies so I can get that push out of tournament fights to at least get them out of the first round, where not everybody's saying, "Oh, I haven't seen that," or whatever.
Yeah.
So, hey, another person who's seen Dawn of the Dead, I can vote for it. Yay! Excellent. I mission accomplished.
Well, speaking of which, a movie I may have tried to push for had I known other people watched it. I wasn't sure though, but now I know that you've seen it finally.
Yeah.
An animated movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, we originally had what was the other movie we originally had? We scrapped it. Deer Hunter, because like I had watched it recently and I was like, I don't know, like I didn't really like it that much and I didn't want to like shit on it. Like I think it's got good stuff in it, like, but it's like an hour's worth of good material in a 3-hour movie. that's not a good watch, Like I think
not a good percentage.
Yeah, it's not a good percentage. Like I want to at least like more than I didn't like the movie, and so we call an audible, and I was like, well, is there any animated movies for Jacob we can watch? And I was like, oh, Watership Down. Hey, I've heard a lot about that movie. I've never seen it, and I've heard that it's like kind of gnarly and infamous or something, or heard something about it. I was like, it's kind of whatever, and I was like, okay, let's check it out. Like, I'll finally watch it. So yeah, it was on Max, so I checked it out on Max, and like I don't know if I like this movie, but it's something. it's interesting.
Yeah. It's one of those movies where kind of like a Grave of the Fireflies or a Schindler's List. Like, I like the movie.
But I don't know if I like the movie. But I don't know if I like the movie.
Yeah. I don't know if I like it enough to like. Obviously, I rewatched it for this. I do like to kind of have somewhat of a.
So you had seen this before, though? I figured you're an anime.
I had, yeah. Okay, I had seen it a couple times before, but they were very like stretched out. Like, it's not something I'm going to rewatch like all the time. And you know why now. But yeah, I had seen it before, and yeah, there were moments that I forgot. I forgot how bloody this movie was for an animated movie.
Like I alluded to, man, this movie might be bloodier than Dawn of the Dead. Like, legit. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, there's so much blood in this movie, so much blood and so much violence. Like, Dawn of the Dead is almost a lighter movie than Watership Down.
No, it is.
Like, not as horrifying, not as disturbing than does this movie. It's a lighter watch.
This movie is kind of depressing. Like, I feel like there's no really uplifting moments. There's that one moment where the music kind of escalates and feels joyous as they're like going up the hill and they overlook this.
We finally made it to the hill. We're gonna live here now.
That's like the only moment.
Yeah,
it's like 30 seconds in an hour and a half. Like that's not enough. What I will say is I think the animation looks good. For the 70s, I think the animation is cool. I think the story is good. The voice performance I really dig. I really enjoy like that animation style in the beginning too, kind of like before they get to the
it was good because especially the night scenes I think look really good. Yeah, when it's like raining and there's lightning, like I like the animation and it lights up the whole screen and you see them unique, especially when it's raining and there's some like violent moments. Like again, it is pretty scary. Like as far as like it could be traumatic for kids when they're fighting or when the big enforcer, whatever his name is like threatening them of like, you guys get back in there now or you're going to be in trouble. We're going to, there's going to be consequences, when they're first trying to kind of escape, where they live, their briar where they live, when they think something bad is coming. Especially in those later scenes when they're having those fights, like in the tunnels, and the old general who is, he's got like that weird, like he's got like one eye and he's like, he's all scarred up, he's so gnarly. Yeah. And he's just like, and he's very vicious and he fights like their group's big guy, and they kind of have a drag it out. And when they flash back to like, how their society works and it's like, oh, well, the first thing we have to do is we have to like mark you. And they just like violently like slash, the rabbits and they're bleeding all over the place, and slash them up. And it's like, you belong to us now. Like that stuff is crazy, man. Like it was nuts.
yeah, this movie is dark, and they don't shy away from it. Um, the movie it's basically about this group of rabbits who are, one of them has a vision or something and says we got to leave, and so they do. I think what's really happening is that the land is being developed for like some complex or something.
Yeah, they don't really explain it, but I took it that they were slowly, like a company was taking over. Yeah, and they were slowly like encroaching bit by bit on like the field, or they were turning it into like an industrial farm or something.
Something like that.
That's what I took it as, because maybe he was seeing like fires in the distance. Maybe they were like burning some of the old stuff to make room for the new stuff or whatever. Like I thought it was going to be a thing where they got pushed out by a fire, but like Secret of NIMH kind of does that, where they get pushed out. And I thought it was going to be something like that, but I think it's more like they're just getting slowly encroached on by like by people, essentially. So yeah, they have to move on and find, but they have people, a group that doesn't want them to leave. It's just like, no, you're not going to leave. Like you're part of this, here. And
this is where we
escape, and it's this journey where they encounter different perilous things kind of along the way.
Like dogs and traps,
rivers and other animals there, cats, other they come across different bunnies that are like in cages at a farm, that they're just there for like breeding, essentially, things like that. The cat design and dog designs are pretty, pretty vicious, looking and kind of nightmare. I mean, I can see kids having nightmares.
10-year-old me would not have liked this movie.
No, that would be very scary. This is not one that like, I mean, I'm being serious when I say if I had like, there was like an 8-year-old with it, and like I had to show him either this or Dawn of the Dead. I'm going to show him Dawn of the Dead. I think it would be less traumatic, honestly.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
Because they might laugh at the goofy stuff in Dawn of the Dead, the silly music and all this. This movie is way more traumatic.
This is not a video game I would like to play.
No, and I don't want to live this either. I'd rather try to survive Dawn of the Dead.
Your final task is try not to get killed by the big bad bunny.
The big bad general scary man bunny. Yeah. Right.
So
who literally just like rips people up and just leaves them laying, and you just see dead bodies everywhere and body parts. Like you see like pieces of their, limbs and stuff. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ, who's this movie for? This movie's for 5-year-olds?
I would love to go back to like the marketing for this movie and like who was this movie marketed.
You know what they need to do? Those the pitch meeting guy, what's his name, Ryan George? He needs to do a pitch meeting for Watership Down and be like, so you got a family mover for me? Yes, sir, I do. And be like, so we're gonna follow these bunny rabbits, right? Oh, cute little bunnies, and they're gonna rip each other apart. Oh my god.
Have you ever read the book Watership Down?
Yeah. And then he's gonna slash them, and there's gonna be blood. Oh my god. And then one of them's gonna be trapped in a snare, and he's gonna survive for a second and then die anyways. And then like, what? Oh my Jesus Christ.
Don't give us that hope that he's going to survive, and then doesn't survive.
And still doesn't survive. Yeah, it's like, Jesus, like this movie's brutal.
I don't really have much more to say on it. I think it's a dark movie.
Yeah.
But I do dig the animation, especially like the animation in the beginning when they're doing like the prologue or whatever. And then the story, like it gets dark, but I think the animation is good. I think the voice performances are good. But yeah, no, it is just dark and depressing. And if I had to pick a dark, depressing movie to rewatch, like I said, like this, Grave of the Fireflies, Schindler's List, like I think this might be the most dark and depressing of them all, just because there's no moments that are like uplifting,
hopeful,
it's like
or anything.
hopeful. There's just nothing hopeful in this movie. So
yeah, I can imagine the book's probably even more like downer, man. I can only imagine what the book is. Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, I wouldn't say I enjoyed the watch, but it was certainly interesting. That's for sure. There's things to talk about. That's for damn sure. So yeah, now I've seen it, but this was a pretty gnarly watch, and again, I could appreciate the technical style. I do like that that style of animation. It's unique. It's that that 70s Lord of the Rings movie has kind of the same like hand drawn, kind of style like that. If you've ever seen, I don't know if you've ever seen that, but even if you just watch
I haven't yet.
Yeah, it's not great, but like it's got an interesting look to it and stuff. And they cram all 3 books into one.
I was about to say, isn't it all 3?
Yeah, it's all 3. So it's a much more like if you want to get at the whole story within 2 hours, there you go. not 12 hours. That's the movie for you. But yeah, it's worth watching at least once. I've seen it.
And I would say that about this one too. Like I think watch it at least once.
Watch it once just to say like, oh my god, yeah, I've seen Watership Down. Have you seen Watership Down? But yeah, I would probably. I'm not gonna go back and watch this anytime soon. It's just like there's no reason to go back and watch it. Like I can sit down and watch Dawn of the Dead and have fun with it and just being hey, this part's fun. Oh, this is cool. I like this. Oh man, that part's sad. But this part's fun. Like this movie. No thanks. I'm good. So
yeah, those are kind of that. Those are our 70s movies that we have a kind of a downer to end on. Maybe
we should have ended with Dawn of the Dead. Maybe that would have been a little fun.
I'll just go in the order I wrote them down in the tickers.
All right, note to self: end with My Neighbor Totoro next week. Okay,
there we go. Speaking of next week, why don't you
not the race movie set in Mississippi, but anyways,
speaking of next week, why don't you let them know what movies we'll be covering? Since we missed last week, we will be doing two in a row, kind of getting back on schedule. So why don't you? We're going to cover for the 80s.
Yeah, we'll move into the 80s, and we'll do the same thing. We're going to watch a 40th and a 35th. So we'll be looking at 1983, and the two movies we're going to look at that are Risky Business with good old Tom Cruise, one of his early big hits, breakout roles there. I watched it literally for the Tom Cruise tournament like a couple weeks ago, so like I'm pretty fresh off of that. We're watching Return of the Jedi, so we can at least talk about something fun, and there you go. Yeah, a little Star Wars. 40.
Kind of the Star Wars movie that doesn't get talked about a lot.
People talk about
the beginning and Empire, but like Return of the Jedi just.
Yeah, it's good stuff. We'll talk about it. I like it a lot. I mean, I watched it all the time. We'll talk about it. And then, for the 35th and the 88th, we'll be watching Mississippi Burning, which I just came to fairly recently. I think you said you haven't seen it, right? Or is this going to be first time?
So this will be a first time, yeah.
Yeah, but it's again, it's a heavy movie. There's a lot of heavy themes in it, but it's really, really good. Yeah, it's Gene Hackman. It's your boy Willem Dafoe. I know you can watch another Willem Dafoe movie. He's Gene Hackman's partner in the movie, and he's kind of playing a heroic character, not a villainous character. But it's a similar dynamic to where with Serpico, where Gene Hackman's kind of the veteran that will do the shady things to get the job done, but he's not a bad guy. He's willing to cross the line to do what he's got to do.
Right. Okay.
Willem Dafoe's like the straight-laced, by the books, like FBI guy who wants to get it done in the courts, in the proper way, and they have a little dynamic. So it's a really good movie. Ton of character actors in that movie that Papa will recognize. Michael Rooker's in there.
Oh, nice.
Like there's the guy who's in all the Ernest movies. You'll recognize him. You'll recognize him when you see him. I forget his name. But yeah, there's a bunch of character people that just pop up throughout that movie, so you'll enjoy it. But it's a good watch. But yeah, your boy Willem, so I'm sure you'll enjoy that. He's good. And then we'll do another animated one with My Neighbor Totoro, so some Studio Ghibli, which I had to watch for a Battleground match not too long ago, so I've seen it. So
nice.
But I might watch Mississippi Burning again. I really liked it. It should be a good one. Again, kind of a nice array of movies there from the 80s. So
it's a nice mix here. So whereas we did 2 horror this time, like we don't have any. I think we'll get to horror again or horror adjacent. I think.
Oh, we're doing we're gonna do horror again in the 90s because I think we have The Faculty on that show. Right. So which is one of my favorites. So we'll get to that when we get there. But we'll have some more horror at some point, and then we'll get to horror way more when we get to October for sure. Because that'll be a lot. We'll dive into a franchise. We'll do some things there. So we'll get there.
So, all right. Well, this was a fun discussion, kind of talking 70s movies and kind of being able to dive into them more than we did last year. We learned our lesson.
Yes.
Yeah. We kind of found our groove, I think, with these 4 movie shows. Obviously, when we do franchises, we expanded a little bit, but that's okay. But I know you've got something going on later tonight, right?
Yeah, so I canceled my drinking game. We're not going to do that till next week because I've only slept like a couple hours, and pounding 6 beers tonight does not sound like the greatest idea to me. So we'll do that
No.
next week. Yeah, I was asked to come on Battleground and talk some new releases, so I'll do that real quick before I go to bed. At least I don't have to pound beers for that and then go
Right.
to sleep. Yeah, we got that going on. But speaking of William Friedkin here on the channel, so tomorrow night, Jordan Anderson and I here probably about 6 Eastern, something like that, before Rankum. Tomorrow night, we'll be doing our Wheel of Movies episode, and we'll be talking about Sorcerer. So we'll be talking more Friedkin in honor of Mr. Friedkin. And that's a movie that's on my 128 that I really, really like. Yeah, a little Sorcerer there. Yeah, a movie that's really, really good that I want to talk about. So, yeah, we'll talk some more Friedkin tomorrow night. If anybody's interested, you can tune in for that. Me and Jordan will do a little hour-long deep dive on Sorcerer. So, yeah, we got that. The 2009 ladder series starts next week, and me and Jordan are still in the team ASAT tournament on JPO's Pierceco channel. We made it to the finals, unbelievably.
Nice.
we're in it. So, Team Movie Heroes representing. I don't know how we made it, but we made it. So we're in the finals. But we got to go up against Corey Quinto, who's like stupid good at trivia, so we'll see how far we make it. But,
it might depend on the
partners. Yeah, because me and Corey battled in the singles finals of the ASAT. I did the singles finals and I faced off against him. Played my ass off. Got a lot of questions right and still lost. So yeah, that was
might come down to Jordan and Jonathan in that one. And,
yes,
and really, it's all about the questions too. So
it's all about the questions. So we'll see what happens. Yeah.
Anything can happen. Yeah. So check that out whenever it happens. Friend of the channel.
And I believe Monday night I'm going to try to set it up probably the next day or two. I'm going to be doing Richie Goodacre's birthday ASAT that I wrote, and he wanted. He gave me a specific request, much like JPO did. We'll do it on this channel. Yeah, he requested all movie release dates. So I got 25 questions of all release date questions. So that's what he wants.
Sign me up if there's.
You want in? Okay,
I want in on release dates.
Gotcha.
Release dates for me, it's like I'm always I'm always in the ballpark. Like I'm never like stupidly off. Like I'm never like
a year or two, here and there.
Yeah, I'm always like, oh, that feels like an 80s movie. Cool. Let's go 82. Oh, it was 83. Of course it was.
Oh well, but it'll be fun. Yeah, I've written 25 questions, so I got 25 fun movie release date questions. A mix of everything: a single movie, this person, these 2 movies that they did, these 3, whatever. It'll be a good time. So. Yeah, I'll set that up probably the next day or two. We'll do that Monday night. I believe at 8 is what I'm shooting for before tournament fights. Okay. So if you're available for that, I'll get you in on that, and we'll get a couple of people and get a little release date, just ASAT exhibition going on. That should be fun.
Yeah. So that'll be fun. Like you mentioned, Rankum tomorrow night. I will also be on there talking.
Yeah, you and Jordan Anderson. He reached out to me, but I got some other things going on later that night, so I had to back out of that. So me and Jordan will do Wheel of Movies. He'll jump on and do Rankum with you, teachers.
Yeah, I'm still trying to finalize my list too. It's a tough topic.
It's a lot of good.
It's not just teachers, but it's also like mentors as well because they teach.
Sure.
But I think teacher was just the blanket term. Being used, excluding coaches, because that could be its own list. Whenever that happens, I would love to jump on that one as well.
Mr. Schneebly from School of Rock, Jack Black.
You know what? I'm considering it because while I don't like the methods in which he gets the job,
hey, he
does the job really well.
He's a good teacher in the end. So and they like him. So yeah, why not?
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that tomorrow around 8 Eastern. Then I'm not on the ladder series, but tune into that. I will be on Lonely Marks, where we will do our all-in predictions, and at some point I gotta watch the January 31st edition, 2000 edition of Monday Nitro.
Yay! Because we did a wheel spin, that was fun. I'll also be bringing you guys, as I said, a live report from the go home shows of Dynamite and Rampage going into All In, because I will be live in Duluth, Georgia. I have my ticket, I have my my hotel room when we stay in the night, and I will be going to those shows leading into All In. So I'll be giving you guys on Lonely Marks a little live report from those shows. So that should be fun.
Where the card is looking good. I really hope before we do our predictions though that they tell us who the other 3 partners are for that stadium.
That might decide who it is. So yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll be at the shows, and I even know what happens on Rampage, so I'll let you know.
Yeah, because if it's a Rampage thing, it's like I know JPO doesn't like spoilers. I get it,
but we kind of need him for that.
But if it's for a show that we're predicting that's happening, and yeah, sorry, JPO, I get it, but sometimes it's necessary.
Yeah, but I'll let you guys know. Yeah, we should have the final. We legitimately should have the final cards. I'll write them down if I have to with my phone, to make sure we got everything and we're ready to go. So, but yeah, it should be a good time. It's gonna be a busy week, but a fun week. So here on the movie here now. So make sure you set that notification bell. So you know when we go live, and then follow us on everything we do, man, because we have a good time putting the shows together for you guys. So
yeah. So again, join us next week as we dive into the 80s. Check out Tournament Fights, Tier Ranker, Seen and Heard trivia. I know Jordan is planning a free-for-all. So
yes, about 3 weeks or so from now, it's going to be on looking like Sunday night. The September 10th is looking like what it's going to be like, about 8:00 Eastern. Free. He's already got about 20 people signed up. So and it might be about 20 to 25 people roughly. He's going to have to put together about 100 clips for that thing or so, maybe 120. A whole lot.
I don't even know if StreamYard can hold that many.
You can do that if you do different brands. And you have to do
that's true. That's true. Do the brand, yeah.
You have to do the different folders, so he'll have to break it up, and he's gonna prep as much as he can. I'm gonna be co-hosting that, so I'm not actually gonna be playing, even though I'm the big Seen and Heard guy. I'm a Jacob. I'm a five-time Seen and Heard trivia winner. But I will be sitting out because what we're gonna do is the winner and the MVP of that free-for-all will join myself, Moose Haas, and Ryan Permison, all the former winners, in sort of a grand championship episode of Seen and Heard. So you can earn yourself a spot in there. And then if Moose Haas, who has won before, wins the Rumble or is the MVP, we'll take like the second place person,
because I know Ryan signed up as well.
Yeah, he signed up as well. So if one of them wins, we'll take like the person that comes in right behind them or does second best. We'll invite them. But it should be a good time. Yeah, it's gonna be all clips all the time, and we're planning it out. We're gonna do our best, but I'm gonna help him co-host that because he needs a little help for that. So that's what we're doing. But did you sign up for it? You got to get in there, right? Come on, get in there.
Maybe.
Why not? It's a free for all. Jump in there. Come on, enter yourself in there. He'll save a spot.
I might. He already asked. You know he did.
Sure, of course. He reached out to us.
Yeah. So check all that out. That's coming up soon. Tournament Fights, Tier Ranker, Seen and Heard, Lonely Marks, podcast about movies. Check it all out. Like, subscribe, do the thing.
And we might even do next Saturday after a podcast about movies. There might be another podcast. There might be Podcast League Now as well after that with me, Jordan, JPO, and Richie talking about our best and worst theater experiences. We're talking.
Okay. And we still have to schedule that animated draft too.
I know. Yeah, we're getting around all of our ideas. We're getting there. That'll be after that. We'll do that after that. So we'll get there. You'll be a part of that for sure.
For sure.
On the animated draft. Yeah, we'll definitely get you in on that one. So we got a lot going on the channel. So set that notification bell. Make sure you join us.
Yeah. So thank you guys. Anyone who watched live, if you're watching on the replay, we appreciate you as well. Let us know what you think about these 4 movies. And join us next week when we dive into the 80s. So that is Austin. I am Jacob. This has been a podcast about movies. We will see you next time.